A millionaire encounters a beggar with two children and realizes who she is. His next move will leave you speechless. A millionaire sees his childhood love begging with two 3-year-old twin children and recognizes her. But what he does next is unbelievable. Before we dive into this incredible tale, let us know in the comments which city you're tuning in from. And if you're excited for this story, smash that like button and drop a 1 below. Enjoy the story, everyone. Ethan Bennett, a ruthless millionaire, was crossing a busy street corner when something caught his attention. A woman, dressed in dirty, worn clothes with disheveled hair, was sitting on the sidewalk. Her face was tired and marked by suffering. Beside her, two little girls, twins about 4 years old, wore tattered clothes. One of them was quietly crying, rubbing her eyes with small, dirty hands. "Sweetheart, it's okay. Someone will help us soon," the woman murmured, stroking the child's hair with a trembling voice full of desperate love. Ethan felt a pang in his chest. He knew that face, even through the dirt and pain. It couldn't be, but it was. Sophia Carter, the love of his youth, the girl he used to admire from afar. She had never noticed him in school, except to mock his awkward attempts to get her attention. Now she was here, vulnerable and helpless. Ethan approached slowly, his heart racing. "Sophia," he called hesitantly. The woman slowly lifted her head, her eyes widening as she recognized the voice. "Ethan?" For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy with painful memories. Then Sophia lowered her gaze, as if wishing to disappear. "What happened to you?" he asked, unable to hide his concern. Sophia looked away, clutching the girls even tighter. "It doesn't matter. We're fine. Go away, Ethan." But Ethan couldn't ignore what he saw. One of the girls was sobbing from hunger, while the other clung to her mother's arm, staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. The pain and despair of the scene hit him like a blow. "You're not fine. Come with me. I'll help you." "No, I can't," Sophia began to protest. "I'm not leaving you and your daughters out here in the cold. You're coming with me, and I won't take no for an answer." The girls looked at him, curious yet cautious. The one who had been crying pressed her lips together, holding back her tears. Sophia hesitated, but Ethan's determined gaze made her relent. She knew she had no other choice. Ethan pulled out his phone and called his driver. "Be here in 5 minutes," he said before putting the phone away. "Let's go. There's no reason for you to stay here." He extended his hand to Sophia, who reluctantly took it. When the car arrived, Ethan helped Sophia get in, carrying one of the girls while she held the other. The children were exhausted, their faces resting on their mother's shoulders. During the ride to Ethan's mansion, the silence was oppressive. Sophia stared out the window, lost in thought. Ethan glanced at her occasionally, trying to understand how her life had fallen apart. When they arrived, Sophia looked visibly uncomfortable. The grand mansion, with its warm lights and immaculate garden, seemed like another world. "You don't have to do this, Ethan. We can—" "No more arguing, Sophia. You'll come inside, eat something, and rest." The housekeeper, Mrs. Thompson, opened the door with a surprised expression but said nothing. Ethan instructed her to prepare a room for Sophia and the girls. While Mrs. Thompson took care of that, Ethan brought Sophia and the children to the living room. He lit the fireplace, creating a cozy warmth, and asked for food to be prepared for them. "Thank you, Ethan. Really, thank you," Sophia said, her eyes brimming with tears as the girls curled up on the sofa beside her. Ethan nodded, his mind racing. He knew that this night was just the beginning. Tomorrow, he needed to understand what had truly happened to Sophia and how she had ended up here. The sun was just beginning to peek through the windows of Ethan's mansion, but Sophia was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed. She watched her twins, Lily and Rose, who were still sleeping soundly. For the first time in a long time, her daughters were warm and comfortable. That should have eased her heart. But instead, she felt a growing knot in her throat. Across the mansion, Ethan was also awake, sitting in his office, thinking about everything he had seen the night before. The image of Sophia on the sidewalk, holding her children, wouldn't leave his mind. He needed to understand how this had happened. After all, the Sophia he had known in school had been confident, full of life, someone who seemed destined for great things. Shortly after, the housekeeper knocked gently on Sophia's door. "Miss Carter, breakfast is ready. Mr. Bennett would like you and the girls to come down." Sophia thanked her and woke the twins. A few minutes later, they went downstairs together to the dining room, where a generous breakfast spread awaited them. The girls ran excitedly to the chairs, delighted by the variety of fruits, breads, and juices. Sophia, however, hesitated. "Please, have a seat," Ethan said, appearing in the doorway. He was wearing a crisp white dress shirt and looked relaxed, though his eyes revealed a serious undertone. "Thank you," Sophia replied, pulling out a chair while watching Lily and Rose eat enthusiastically. During the meal, an awkward silence lingered between Ethan and Sophia. He knew he needed to tread carefully, but he was determined to understand the truth. When the girls finished eating, the housekeeper took them to play in a nearby room. Sophia remained seated, now alone with Ethan. He rested his elbows on the table and looked her straight in the eye. "Sophia, we need to talk. I want to understand what happened to you." She averted her gaze, clasping her hands in her lap. "It's not a story I like to tell. I'm not here to judge. I just want to help." Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. "When I saw you yesterday, you and your daughters were in a situation that, well, it doesn't happen overnight." "What happened, Sophia?" She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment before beginning to speak. "After we graduated high school, I started dating Ryan Miller. You remember him, don't you?" Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening at the mention of the name. He remembered Ryan all too well. Someone everyone admired, yet who wouldn't hesitate to hurt others to get what he wanted. "Ryan and I started dating right after prom. I was in love and thought he felt the same. A few months later, I found out I was pregnant. When I told him, I thought we'd face it together, but he abandoned me. He said he wasn't ready to be a father and didn't want the responsibility. That was the last time I saw him." Ethan clenched his fists on the table, struggling to contain the anger welling up inside him. "He just left you?" Sophia nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "Yes. I was alone with no support. My parents couldn't help much, and I did what I could to provide for the girls, but it wasn't enough. I eventually lost my job, and over time the bills piled up. When Lily and Rose were 2 years old, we were evicted from our apartment. Since then, we've been living on the streets, relying on the kindness of strangers." Ethan sat in silence, processing everything he just heard. The Sophia he had once known was strong, but life had broken her in ways he never imagined. "Why didn't you ever ask for help?" he finally asked, his voice softer now. "I was ashamed," Sophia admitted, "ashamed of how my life had fallen apart. I didn't want anyone to see me like this, especially someone like you." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a mix of compassion and sadness. "Sophia, no one deserves to go through this. You're not alone anymore. I'll help you and your daughters get back on your feet." "Why, Ethan? Why are you doing all this?" He hesitated, but knew he had to be honest. "Because despite everything, I care about you. I've always cared." Sophia sat in silence, unable to respond. Ethan's words echoed in her mind as she tried to process everything that was happening. That night, as Sophia tucked the girls into bed, she reflected on what Ethan had said. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, but she also knew that accepting help meant facing her deepest fears and rebuilding her life from scratch. Hey, if this story's tugging at your heartstrings already, Hit that like button and comment 1 to let us know you're hooked. What do you think of Ethan's kindness so far? The next morning, as sunlight poured through the mansion's large windows, Sophia woke to the soft laughter of Lily and Rose playing on the carpet beside the bed. For a moment, she felt like she was dreaming. It was hard to believe that just 24 hours earlier, she'd been sitting on a sidewalk, unsure where their next meal would come from. She stretched and called the girls to get ready. Fresh clothes had been set out in the room, carefully chosen by the housekeeper. Sophia was struck by the thoughtfulness, though she still felt out of place in such a luxurious setting. When they went downstairs for breakfast, Ethan was already in the living room, reviewing some papers. He looked up when he heard the twins' footsteps and gave a faint smile. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. Lily nodded eagerly, while Rose shyly held her mother's hand. "Yes, it was the best night we've had in a long time," Sophia replied, a touch of gratitude in her voice. "I'm glad to hear that." Ethan gestured for them to sit. "You don't have to worry about anything today. I want you to rest. The girls can play in the garden or wherever they like." Sophia hesitated. "Ethan, I don't know how to thank you for all of this, but I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. As soon as I can, I'll find a job and—" Ethan raised a hand, stopping her. "There's no rush, Sophia. Before anything else, you need to recover. Don't worry about timelines. We'll figure this out together." Despite his reassuring words, Sophia still felt a weight on her chest. Accepting help didn't come naturally to her. However, her daughter's well-being came first, and for their sake, she swallowed her pride. After breakfast, Lily and Rose went to play in the garden under the housekeeper's supervision. Sophia, meanwhile, helped clear the dishes, feeling uneasy about not contributing more. Ethan found her in the kitchen, shaking his head as he saw her trying to wash the dishes. "Sophia, you don't have to do that." "I need to do something, Ethan. I don't feel right just taking everything without giving back." Ethan sighed. "If that's how you feel, fine. But for now, I want to talk about the girls. Do they have everything they need?" Sophia paused, thinking. "They need a few things like clothes and shoes. What they have is old and worn." "Great. Let's go out and get what they need." Sophia's eyes widened. "That's not necessary, Ethan. I can manage later." "No discussion," Ethan said with a gentle smile. "I'll get the car." Half an hour later, Sophia, Lily, and Rose were in a children's store downtown, with Ethan watching closely. The girls were delighted, running between the racks and trying on new clothes. "Can I really get this, Mommy?" Lily asked, holding a sparkling blue dress. Sophia's heart ached at the sight of her daughter's bright, hopeful eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, you can." Rose, the more reserved twin, held up a pair of new sneakers. "Me too, Mommy." Sophia nodded with an emotional smile. "You too, my love." Ethan watched silently, pleased to see the girls so happy. After picking out clothes, shoes, and a few toys, he took them to a restaurant for lunch. During lunch, the twins chattered excitedly, sharing stories and playing with each other. Sophia watched them, feeling a sense of relief as she saw them smiling at last. "You've done so much for us today, Ethan." "Thank you," Sophia said sincerely. "I've only done what anyone should do." Ethan replied casually. "You deserve this, Sophia." She lowered her eyes, the shame creeping back. She knew Ethan was being kind, but she couldn't help remembering how she had treated him in the past. "You're a much better person than I was to you, Ethan," she murmured, almost inaudibly. Ethan frowned. "Sophia, the past is behind us. What matters now is what we do moving forward." She nodded, though the guilt still lingered. When they returned to the mansion, the twins ran straight to the garden, showing off their new clothes. Sophia watched them from the living room window, a smile on her face. For the first time in years, she felt safe. Ethan, standing beside her, broke the silence. "They're incredible little girls. They're my strength to keep going, even in the worst moments. They gave me a reason to move forward. Ethan looked at her with admiration. You're stronger than you realize, Sophia. To go through everything you have and still stand tall, that's something few people can do. She sighed. I don't know if it's strength or just stubbornness, but either way, thank you. Ethan smiled. If you ever need anything, you know you can count on me. Sophia nodded, finally feeling that she could trust someone besides herself. The next morning, Sophia woke up to the soft sunlight streaming through the curtains. Lily and Rose were still fast asleep, their faces relaxed, free from the worries they had carried on the streets. Sophia watched her daughters for a moment, feeling a mix of relief and hope. Maybe starting over was possible after all. After getting dressed, she went downstairs and found Ethan in the kitchen, sipping coffee and reading the newspaper. He looked up when he heard her footsteps and smiled. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Yes, thank you. And you? Like a rock, he replied, folding the newspaper and standing up. I made coffee for you too. Have a seat. Sophia thanked him, feeling strangely at ease with the routine that was starting to form. As she sipped her coffee, Ethan sat across from her and said, I was thinking, now that the girls are more comfortable, we can start focusing on you. On me? She asked, surprised. Yes. You mentioned wanting to work again. What kind of job are you looking for? Sophia stayed quiet for a moment, weighing her options. I don't have an academic background, so my options are limited, but I'm willing to do anything that allows me to support my daughters. Ethan nodded. That makes sense. But what if you could study, finish your education, and get a job that truly brings you fulfillment? Her eyes widened. Study? That's out of the question, Ethan. I don't have the time or resources for that. You'd have both here. I can help with the expenses and make sure the girls are well cared for while you study. Sophia shook her head, incredulous. You've already done so much for us. I can't accept anything more. Ethan leaned forward, his expression serious. Sophia, this isn't just about you. It's about Lily and Rose. If you have the chance to grow stronger, it'll benefit your daughters in the long run. Please think about it. Ethan's words struck Sophia deeply. She knew he was right, but she still struggled with her pride and shame. That evening, after putting the twins to bed, Ethan asked Sophia to meet him in his office. Sophia, I have a proposal for you, he began, handing her a small envelope. She opened it to find information about business and entrepreneurship courses. I want you to consider taking these courses. You're smart and determined, and I believe you have the potential to achieve great things. This will give you the tools to support yourself and create a better future for your daughters. Sophia looked at the papers, her mind racing to process the offer. Ethan, this is too much. I'm not sure I can do it. You're more capable than you think, and you don't have to decide right now. Just consider it. Sophia held the papers tightly, feeling torn between fear and hope. In the days that followed, Sophia began to reflect on Ethan's proposal. Gradually, she realized this could be her chance to change her life, and, most importantly, give her daughters the future they deserved. Finally, after much thought, she agreed. She enrolled in the courses and, with Ethan's support, began studying during the day while the twins were cared for by the housekeeper. Although the beginning was challenging, Sophia felt reinvigorated as she learned new skills and rediscovered a side of herself she thought she'd lost. Each day was a small victory, and she clung to the idea that she was building something lasting. Ethan closely followed her progress, offering encouragement and support whenever she needed it. He knew Sophia needed to believe in herself as much as he believed in her. Sophia, in turn, started to realize how important Ethan had become in her life. His constant presence and unwavering support were slowly breaking down the barriers she had built over the years. Wow, Sophia's journey is inspiring, right? Show some love by hitting like and commenting one below. Tell us what you think of her determination. Sophia's routine was changing quickly. In the mornings, while Lily and Rose played in the garden, she spent hours studying in the office Ethan had set up for her. At first, every page she read felt like climbing a mountain, but over time, she found her rhythm. Ethan's steady and unwavering support motivated her even more. One afternoon, as Sophia reviewed her notes, Ethan walked into the room with a serious expression. She immediately sensed something was wrong. "We need to talk," he said, closing the door behind him. Sophia felt her stomach tighten. "What is it?" "I found someone from your past," Ethan replied, sitting across from her. "Ryan Miller." The name thundered in Sophia's mind. Ryan, the man who had abandoned her when she needed him most, the father of her daughters who had never acknowledged them. Sophia took a deep breath, trying to control the wave of emotions. "What does he have to do with this?" she asked, her voice steadier than she expected. "I've been looking into some things. I wanted to understand better what happened to you after school. I found Ryan and decided to confront him." "You did what?" Sophia stood, startled. "I needed to know the truth about what he did to you, and why he abandoned you and the girls, Ethan. You had no right to do that." "Maybe not, but I did it for you." Sophia stayed silent, her chest tight. She knew Ethan meant well, but bringing Ryan back into her life felt like reopening a wound that hadn't fully healed. "What did he say?" she finally asked, her voice hesitant. Ethan rested his elbows on the table and sighed. "He admitted everything. He said he knew you were pregnant but didn't want to take responsibility. He claimed it was easier to disappear." Let's play a little game. For those who only read the comments, type "pizza" in the comments. Only those who make it this far will understand. Now, let's get back to the story. Sophia felt her anger rise like a tide. She hadn't expected anything different from Ryan, but hearing those words out loud still stung. "Did he mention the girls?" she asked, her eyes brimming with tears. "No, he didn't even ask about them." Sophia clenched her fists, trying to hold back her tears. As much as she despised Ryan, a part of her had always hoped that one day he would show remorse, or at least some curiosity about the daughters he had abandoned. Ethan stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sophia, you don't have to face this alone. I'm here." She looked at him, struggling to resist the urge to break down. "Thank you, Ethan, but there are things I have to handle on my own." That night, after putting the girls to bed, Sophia sat at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of tea that had gone cold. Ethan's words echoed in her mind, and the thought of Ryan lingered like a shadow. She knew that to move forward, she had to confront the past once and for all. In the days that followed, Sophia tried to resume her routine, but she couldn't focus. Memories of Ryan and the confrontation Ethan had mentioned weighed on her like an anchor. Ethan, noticing the change in her demeanor, decided to give her space, but watched her with concern. One morning, Sophia made a decision. She picked up the phone and called Ryan. He answered after a few rings, his voice indifferent on the other end of the line. "Ryan, it's Sophia. We need to talk." There was silence for a few seconds before he replied, "About what?" "It's been so long." "It's about the girls. You've never wanted to know anything about them, but that needs to change. Not for me, but for them." Ryan sighed. "Sophia, I've already made it clear I don't want to be part of this. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Because I'm not." Sophia's heart tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "So, you'll never meet them? Never take any responsibility?" "I've moved on, Sophia. I think you should too." Before she could respond, the line went dead. She stood there, holding the phone, trying to process the emptiness left by that conversation. It was the closure she needed, but also a harsh confirmation that Ryan would never be part of her daughters' lives. When Ethan arrived that evening, He found Sophia sitting on the couch with the twins asleep beside her. He sat down next to her, waiting silently for her to speak first. "I talked to Ryan," she finally said, breaking the silence. Ethan frowned. "And how did it go?" "As I expected. He doesn't want anything to do with them. He feels nothing." Ethan clenched his fists, his anger evident. He doesn't know what he's missing. Sophia looked at her daughters and sighed. "I didn't do it for him. I did it for the girls. I needed to be sure there was nothing left to expect from him." "And now?" Ethan asked. "Now I move on. I don't want the girls growing up under the shadow of a father who never cared." Ethan nodded, admiring the strength Sophia was showing. He knew she still carried the pain, but he could also see a renewed determination in her. The next morning, Ethan surprised Sophia with a small gift, a notebook, and an elegant pen. "What's this?" she asked, curious. "A tool for you to plan your future. I want you to write down your goals and what you need to achieve them. We'll work on it together." Sophia smiled, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd do exactly what you're doing now, rebuilding. I'm just here to make sure you have every chance to succeed." With Ethan's support, Sophia continued her studies, determined to create a better life for herself and her daughters. The confrontation with Ryan had been painful, but it was also freeing. Now she knew she no longer had to look back. Days passed in an increasingly organized routine. Sophia now focused entirely on her studies and raising the twins, while Ethan remained by her side, offering unwavering support. The relationship between the two grew deeper and more natural, marked by shared understanding and small acts of care. One afternoon, as Sophia reviewed her notes in the living room, Ethan walked in with a folder in hand and a mysterious smile. She looked at him, intrigued. "What's that?" she asked, resting the notebook on her lap. "An opportunity," Ethan replied, handing her the folder. Inside were documents and a preliminary contract. Sophia read the header. "Project Assistant, Bennett Enterprises." She frowned and looked at Ethan, confused. "Are you asking me to work for you?" "I'm not trying to pressure you, Sophia, but I thought this might be a good way for you to start your career while applying what you're learning. It's a temporary position with enough flexibility for you to keep studying and taking care of the girls." Sophia hesitated, reading through the details of the contract. The offer was generous, but she still felt unsure. Working directly with Ethan could be complicated, given the emotional bond they were building. "Ethan, I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. I don't have any experience." "You have more than you think. You're learning quickly and have already shown you can handle challenges. And I'm not offering this as a favor. I genuinely believe in your potential." Ethan's words felt sincere, and Sophia could sense the weight of his encouragement. She knew taking this job would be a big step, but she also feared she might not live up to expectations. After a few seconds of silence, Sophia finally took a deep breath and smiled faintly. "All right, I'll do it." Ethan smiled, clearly pleased. "You won't regret it. We'll take things slow, and over time, you'll see just how capable you are." The next morning, Sophia was introduced to Ethan's team. Despite her nervousness, she quickly realized that he had chosen patient and understanding individuals to guide her. The job required organization, attention to detail, and the ability to manage deadlines. But Sophia faced each challenge with determination. The twins also seemed happier and more settled into their new routine. They spent afternoons playing in the garden or drawing in the kitchen, filling the house, once quiet, with the sound of childish laughter and energy. Ethan often joined them when he could, strengthening his bond with the girls. One evening, while Sophia was reviewing reports in the office, Ethan walked in with 2 cups of tea. He set one beside her and sat on the nearby couch. "You're doing really well," he remarked, watching her. Sophia smiled, her cheeks warming slightly. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm enjoying the challenge. That's what matters. Growth comes through effort, and you're showing admirable strength. She looked away for a moment, trying to manage the wave of emotions his words stirred. Thank you for believing in me, Ethan. Truly. He simply smiled in response, and the silence that followed felt comfortable, almost intimate. Over the following weeks, the connection between Sophia and Ethan deepened. Small gestures, like lingering glances or brief touches, hinted at feelings they were both hesitant to acknowledge. But there was no denying that something was changing. This story's heating up. If you're loving Ethan and Sophia's growing bond, give us a like and comment one below. What do you think will happen next? One afternoon, during a team meeting, Sophia presented an idea to streamline the logistics of a project, surprising everyone in the room. Ethan, clearly proud, didn't hide his smile as he praised her initiative. Excellent suggestion, Sophia. We'll implement this right away. She thanked him, feeling confident and fulfilled for the first time in years. At the end of the day, as the two walked to the parking lot, Ethan stopped and looked her in the eye. Sophia, do you realize how much you've grown since you got here? She shook her head, smiling softly. I still feel like I have so much to prove. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're already amazing just as you are. Sophia's heart raced, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade. Ethan stepped closer, as though he wanted to say more, but the sound of the twins running toward them interrupted him. Mommy, look what we made! Lily and Rose shouted, holding up colorful drawings. Sophia laughed and knelt down to hug them. Ethan watched the scene with a smile, feeling a deep sense of happiness just being with them. Later that night, as she tucked the girls into bed, Sophia reflected on how much her life had changed over the past few months. Ethan's support, the affection he showed the twins, and the way he encouraged her to move forward meant more to her than she could put into words. As she lay down, she felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. She knew she was falling for Ethan, but a part of her still feared opening her heart again. Ethan, on the other hand, found himself thinking about Sophia more and more. She was strong, resilient, and dedicated, qualities he deeply admired. Despite their complicated pasts, he felt there was something special between them, something worth exploring. In the weeks to come, these feelings would only grow harder to ignore. The nights in Ethan's mansion grew increasingly quiet after long days of work and play with Lily and Rose. Sophia often found herself lost in deep reflection, sitting on the edge of her bed with the lights dimmed. She thought about how much her life had changed, yet even surrounded by Ethan's comfort and support, a shadow of the past still lingered over her. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep either. He sat in the living room, staring at the flickering fire in the fireplace, his thoughts revolving around Sophia. Something about the way she withdrew at times troubled him. He knew they needed to have an honest conversation about what they were both feeling to move forward. The next morning, as Lily and Rose played in the garden, Ethan took the opportunity to approach Sophia. She was in the kitchen, organizing the groceries that had just arrived. Ethan entered quietly, observing her for a moment before speaking. Sophia, can we talk? She paused, sensing from his tone that this wasn't an ordinary conversation. Of course. What is it? Ethan gestured for her to follow him to the living room. They sat down, and he began, There's something I've wanted to say for a while, but I wasn't sure how. Sophia leaned forward slightly, her heart starting to race. What is it? I deeply admire your strength and resilience, but I can see that you're still carrying a lot of guilt. I think it's time for you to let it go. She looked away, his words striking a sensitive chord. Ethan, I know I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I made choices that brought me here, and sometimes I feel like I don't deserve the life you're offering me. Ethan shook his head. No one is perfect, Sophia. We all make mistakes, but you've been doing everything you can to overcome your challenges. You deserve this, and so much more." His words felt like a soothing balm on wounds she had hidden for so long. Sophia took a deep breath, realizing it was time to confront her insecurities. "Ethan, I've never apologized for how I treated you when we were younger. I was selfish and immature, and I didn't see the value of the people around me. I hurt you, and I'm sorry for that." Ethan was silent for a moment, taking in her words. Finally he said, "Sophia, the past doesn't matter anymore. We've both changed, and what matters now is what we're building together. I forgive you, and I hope you can forgive yourself." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. It felt as if a tremendous weight was being lifted from her shoulders. She looked at Ethan, who met her gaze with calm understanding. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything. You don't need to thank me. I'm here because I want to be." That moment marked the start of a new chapter for them. The tension from the past began to fade, and they both felt they could finally open up to each other fully. In the days that followed, Sophia noticed a lightness in her heart she hadn't felt in years. She threw herself into her work and studies with renewed enthusiasm, while Ethan continued to support her every step of the way. One evening, after putting the twins to bed, Sophia found Ethan in the garden, sitting in one of the rocking chairs. The soft moonlight illuminated his face, and he seemed lost in thought. "Are you okay?" Sophia asked, sitting beside him. Ethan smiled. "Yeah, I was just thinking about how much has changed. I remember when I saw you that night on the sidewalk. I never imagined we'd end up here." "Neither did I," Sophia admitted, "but I'm glad it happened." "Me too." The silence between them was comfortable, as though words weren't necessary. Ethan looked at Sophia, the gentle glow of the moon reflecting in her eyes. He knew he was falling for her, but he didn't want to rush anything. "Sophia, do you believe in second chances?" he asked, breaking the silence. She smiled, pondering his question. "I think I'm starting to." Ethan nodded, encouraged by her response. He knew they were heading toward something special, something both of them needed, but only time could solidify it. The next morning, Ethan decided to plan a surprise for Sophia and the twins. He arranged a small trip to a nearby farm where they could spend the day outdoors, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Lily and Rose were ecstatic when they heard the idea, and Sophia, though surprised, was grateful for the chance to spend meaningful time with her daughters and Ethan. The day was filled with laughter and unforgettable moments. The girls fed the farm animals, ran through the fields, and enjoyed homemade ice cream. Sophia, meanwhile, felt more connected to Ethan than ever before. He seemed completely at ease, interacting with the twins as if he had always been part of their family. At the end of the day, as they drove home, Lily and Rose were fast asleep in the back seat, exhausted but happy. Sophia watched Ethan as he drove silently, a slight smile on his face. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "There's no need to thank me. It was a special day for all of us." "Yes, it was. And it meant so much to me to see the girls so happy." "This is just the beginning, Sophia. There are many more moments like this ahead of us." She smiled, warmed by his words. For the first time in years, she believed the future could be bright. When they arrived at the house, Ethan carried the twins to their room, making sure they were comfortable before turning off the lights. Sophia stood nearby, moved by the care and dedication he showed. That night, as she lay in bed, Sophia felt ready to finally let go of the past. Ethan was right. Second chances did exist, and she wouldn't waste the one she had been given. Mornings at Ethan's mansion were now filled with life. Lily and Rose ran through the house, laughing and filling the space with contagious joy. Ethan, who had once lived a quiet life, focused solely on work, found himself increasingly involved in the twins' routines, and, more importantly, in Sophia's growth. One morning, Sophia was getting ready to leave. Ethan had invited her to accompany him to an important meeting, an opportunity to observe how he handled negotiations and led his team. Though excited, she was also nervous. She didn't want to make any mistakes or feel out of place. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked, waiting for her by the entrance. "More or less. I hope I don't mess up." "You'll do great, Sophia. Trust yourself." When they arrived at the company building, Sophia was impressed by its grandeur. Ethan guided her to the meeting room, where several executives were already gathered. He introduced her as a promising collaborator, which made her feel both proud and slightly self-conscious. During the meeting, Sophia listened attentively, absorbing every detail. Ethan encouraged her to share some of her ideas, and to her surprise, her suggestions were well received. "You have a very clear perspective," one of the executives commented. "Thank you. I'm still learning, but I'm glad I could contribute," Sophia replied with a modest smile. Ethan watched the interaction with satisfaction. He had always known Sophia was capable, but seeing others recognize her abilities was even more rewarding. After the meeting, Ethan took her to a nearby cafe. They sat at an outdoor table, and Sophia, now relaxed, ordered a cappuccino. "You were amazing today," Ethan said, taking a sip of his coffee. "I was so nervous," she admitted, "but it was exciting to be part of it. This is just the beginning. You're building something solid, Sophia." She looked at him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "None of this would be possible without you, Ethan. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. All I did was show you the way. The credit is all yours." Their moment was interrupted by a call from the housekeeper, letting Sophia know that Lily and Rose were asking for her. Ethan smiled. "Looks like your little ones miss you." "They're attached. They can't stay away for long," Sophia said with a laugh. When they returned home, the twins ran to their mother, hugging her tightly. Ethan watched the scene, feeling an ever-deepening connection with the girls. He loved their boundless energy and how their laughter could brighten any space. Later that afternoon, Ethan decided to organize a small picnic in the garden. Lily and Rose were thrilled, helping to pack a basket with sandwiches, fruit, and juice. Sophia sat on a blanket spread out on the lawn, watching the girls run around with Ethan. "You're getting more and more comfortable with them," Sophia said, as Ethan sat down beside her. "They're incredible kids. It's impossible not to grow attached. Thank you for being so good to them, Ethan. They feel safe and happy here. And that's all I've ever wanted." Ethan smiled. "They're part of you, Sophia. And for me, that's enough." His words touched Sophia deeply, and she felt her heart race. She knew her feelings for Ethan went beyond gratitude, but the fear of fully opening her heart still held her back. As night fell, Lily and Rose finally grew tired and fell asleep in their mother's arms. Ethan helped Sophia carry them to their room, and together they carefully tucked the girls in. As they stepped out into the hallway, Sophia paused, looking at Ethan. "You've changed our lives, you know that." "You've changed mine too, Sophia." The intensity in Ethan's gaze made her feel vulnerable, yet safe at the same time. She knew she could no longer ignore what she was feeling. Later that evening, while Sophia was in the kitchen preparing a cup of tea, Ethan walked in. He stood silently for a moment, watching her, before stepping closer. "Sophia, there's something I need to say." She turned to face him, her heart beating faster. "What is it?" Ethan hesitated briefly, but decided to be honest. "Since you came here, my life has completely changed. You and the girls have brought something into my world that I didn't even realize was missing. I care about you, Sophia, far more than I can put into words." His words washed over Sophia like a wave, catching her off guard. For a moment she didn't know how to respond, but then she smiled, her eyes glistening. "Ethan, I care about you too, but all of this, it's still so new to me. I need time. Ethan nodded, respecting her honesty. I understand. I'm not asking you to rush. I just wanted you to know how I feel. Their moment was interrupted by a faint noise from upstairs. Lily had woken up and was calling for her mother. Sophia smiled and went to tend to her, leaving Ethan alone in the kitchen. He sighed, looking at the abandoned teacup on the counter. Winning Sophia's complete trust would take time, but he was willing to wait. What he felt for her and the girls was worth every moment of patience. In the days that followed, the relationship between Ethan and Sophia continued to grow, marked by small yet meaningful moments. With each passing day, Sophia felt herself opening up to him more, while Ethan remained patient, giving her the space she needed to heal and trust. There was still a long journey ahead, but both were ready to face whatever came their way together. We're getting to the emotional peak. If you're rooting for Ethan and Sophia, smash that like button and drop a 1 in the comments. Share your predictions for their future. The sky over New York was covered in thick clouds, signaling an impending storm. Sophia was in Ethan's office, reviewing the reports he had asked her to work on. She felt more confident in her abilities now, but she still approached each task with the seriousness of someone who understood how much this job meant for her new life. Ethan walked into the room, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He placed one beside Sophia and sat across from her, observing her in silence for a moment before speaking. You're doing really well, you know that. Sophia looked up, surprised by his casual tone. I'm trying, but I still feel like there's room for improvement. You're hard on yourself, and that's a good trait, but I want you to know I'm proud of everything you're accomplishing. Her cheeks flushed slightly, and she turned her gaze back to the computer screen. Ethan's compliment felt like more than just professional praise. There was a warmth in his voice that she couldn't ignore. Time seemed to pass quickly as their bond deepened naturally. Ethan always found ways to show he cared, whether through small gestures or words that made Sophia feel special. On her end, she noticed herself gradually lowering the protective walls she had built, though she still kept a subtle guard up. One night, after the twins had gone to bed, Ethan suggested Sophia join him on the mansion's terrace. She hesitated, but let her curiosity guide her. When they arrived, Sophia was struck by the view. The city lights shimmered like stars, and the cool night air carried a calmness that contrasted with New York's usual bustle. Ethan stood beside her, quietly admiring the way her eyes reflected the city's glow. I used to come up here when I needed to think, he finally said, but lately, I don't feel that need anymore. I think it's because I found something that brings me more peace. Sophia turned to him, sensing there was more behind his words. What brings you that peace? You, he said without hesitation. His words took her by surprise, and for a moment, she was speechless. Ethan took a step closer, lessening the distance between them. From the moment I saw you that night, something inside me changed, and as we've spent more time together, I've realized that what I feel for you is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Sophia's heart raced. She knew her feelings for Ethan were growing, but hearing his confession out loud made everything feel more real. Ethan, this is all so new for me. I'm still trying to find my footing, to be strong for myself and the girls. I'm not asking you to rush, Sophia. I just want you to know how I feel. She took a deep breath, looking into his eyes. There was a sincerity there that she couldn't ignore, and for the first time in years, she felt like it might be safe to open her heart again. I feel something for you too, Ethan, but I need time. I need to be sure I'm ready to move forward. Ethan nodded, respecting her hesitation. I'd wait as long as it takes. Their moment was interrupted by the distant rumble of thunder, signaling an approaching storm. Sophia looked toward the horizon, feeling the cool breeze on her face. We should head inside before it starts raining, she suggested. Ethan agreed, but the light in his eyes made it clear that this conversation had changed something between them. In the days that followed, the atmosphere between Sophia and Ethan grew more emotionally charged. There was a subtle tension in their interactions, as if both were trying to find a balance between the personal and professional. One evening, Ethan decided to surprise Sophia with a special dinner. He asked the housekeeper to look after the twins and personally prepared a meal for the two of them. When Sophia came downstairs and saw the elegantly set table, she was speechless. "You did all this?" she asked in disbelief. "I wanted to do something special for you," he replied with a smile. During dinner, they talked about everything: work, childhood memories, dreams for the future. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and they felt increasingly comfortable in each other's presence. "I never imagined I'd be here with this chance to start over," Sophia said, reflecting. "And if it weren't for you, Ethan, I don't know where we'd be now. You'd be somewhere fighting like you always have. I just had the privilege of helping, but it was more than that. You believed in me when no one else did. That makes all the difference." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "I'll always believe in you, Sophia. Always." His touch was warm and reassuring, and Sophia felt the walls she had built over the years begin to crumble. She knew she still had her fears, but she also knew Ethan was unlike anyone she had ever met. When dinner ended, Ethan walked her to her bedroom door. For a moment, they stood in silence, just looking at each other. "Good night, Ethan," Sophia said softly, with a gentle smile. "Good night, Sophia." As she closed the door, she leaned against it, feeling her heart race. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she wasn't alone. Ethan, meanwhile, walked down the stairs with a smile on his face. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to take every step needed to win Sophia's heart completely. That night, as the rain finally began to fall, they both fell asleep with a new sense of hope, as if the future was starting to reveal itself. Sophia and Ethan's daily lives began to flow with a surprising ease that caught them both off guard. The twins were growing increasingly attached to Ethan, and he, in turn, showed genuine affection for them. Yet Sophia still had moments of doubt, not about her feelings, but about whether she was ready to fully trust someone again. One afternoon, while Sophia was working on reports in the office, her phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message from an unknown number. When she opened it, she saw a photo of Ethan talking to an elegant woman at a restaurant. The caption read, "Do you really know who he is?" Sophia's heart raced. While she knew Ethan had a social life and professional contacts, the message unsettled her. The doubt she had tried to push away came rushing back. Who was that woman? And why would someone send her a message like that? Ethan arrived home later that day, seemingly at ease. He found Sophia in the living room with the twins playing nearby. He immediately noticed something was wrong. "Are you okay?" he asked, sitting beside her. Sophia hesitated for a moment before showing him the message. "I got this today." Ethan frowned as he looked at the image. "That was a business meeting. She's a consultant we're hiring for a project." Sophia wanted to believe him, but the message had cast a shadow over her trust. "Why would someone send this to me, Ethan? It feels like they're trying to warn me about something." "I don't know, but I can find out." "Sophia, you have to trust me. I would never do anything to hurt you." His voice was steady, and his tone carried genuine sincerity. Sophia looked into his eyes and saw something she couldn't ignore: the transparency of someone with nothing to hide. "I want to trust you, Ethan, but this caught me off guard. My whole life has been filled with disappointments, and it's hard to ignore that fear." Ethan gently held her hands, giving them a reassuring squeeze. "I understand, Sophia. I won't pressure you. I just want you to know that I'm here to face anything by your side." In the days that followed, Ethan investigated the source of the message and discovered it had been sent by a disgruntled former employee he had let go months ago. He showed Sophia the evidence, making it clear there was nothing to fear. Sophia felt a mix of relief and guilt. She knew she was still learning to trust, but she also realized that Ethan was willing to do whatever it took to ensure her emotional security. One night, after putting the twins to bed, Sophia went to Ethan's office. He was focused on some documents, but looked up as she entered. "Can we talk?" she asked, closing the door behind her. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Sophia sat in the chair across from his desk and took a deep breath. "I want to apologize for doubting you. I know the message shook me, but that doesn't excuse my lack of trust. You've always been honest with me, and I need to be fair to you." Ethan gave her a soft smile. "You don't need to apologize, Sophia. I know how hard it is for you to let your guard down. I'm here to help, not to judge." His words struck a chord, and Sophia felt tears well up in her eyes. "You're so different from anything I've ever known, Ethan. It scares me, but it also makes me want to believe I can be happy again. Let's play a little game. For those who only read the comments, type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who make it this far will understand. And now, back to the story." Ethan stood and walked over to her, kneeling by her side. He gently wiped away a tear that had fallen down her cheek. "You can be happy, Sophia, and you don't have to do it alone." That night, something shifted between them. The walls Sophia had kept up for so long finally began to crumble. The days that followed were filled with increasingly meaningful moments of closeness. Ethan continued to show patience and care, while Sophia slowly allowed herself to trust him completely. One afternoon, as they strolled through the park with Lily and Rose, Ethan watched Sophia playing with the girls. In that moment, he felt an unshakable certainty. This was the life he wanted. He wanted to be with her and the twins forever. When they returned home, Ethan asked the housekeeper to watch the girls for a few hours. He took Sophia to the mansion's terrace, the same spot where they had shared a pivotal conversation months earlier. "Sophia, there's something I want to say," he began. She looked at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a delicate ring. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you and the girls. You've brought light and joy into my life in a way I never thought possible. Sophia, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she covered her mouth in shock. "Ethan, yes, I will." Ethan smiled as he slipped the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a tight embrace. The storm that had defined the start of their journey had finally passed, and they were ready to begin a new chapter together. As the twins slept peacefully in the next room, Sophia and Ethan talked about their future plans. A simple wedding full of love, and a life built on the trust and respect they had worked so hard to achieve. That night was only the beginning of a journey filled with happy moments and challenges they would face together as a true family. Preparations for Sophia and Ethan's wedding began simply but with great meaning for both of them. Sophia wanted an intimate ceremony, surrounded only by those who were part of her new life. Lily and Rose were thrilled at the idea of being flower girls, and Ethan involved them in every detail, from choosing flowers to picking out dresses. Despite the joy that filled every moment, Sophia knew she still had to confront one last ghost from her past. While she had accepted that Ryan, the twins' biological father, would never take responsibility, she felt she needed to face him one final time. "Ethan, I need to talk to Ryan again," Sophia said one evening while they were on the terrace. Ethan frowned, concerned. "Do you think that's really necessary?" "Yes, not for him, but for me. I need to close this chapter once and for all." Ethan took her hand, his eyes full of understanding. "If that's what you need, I'll be by your side." The next day, Ethan managed to find Ryan's address. Sophia decided to meet him alone, but she felt reassured knowing Ethan was just a phone call away. When she arrived, she found Ryan standing outside a small bar, visibly worn down by time and the choices he had made in life. "Sophia?" he said, surprised to see her. "Yes, it's me. We need to talk." Ryan sighed and gestured for her to follow him to a table in the corner. He looked uneasy, as though hoping this wouldn't take long. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice tired. "I'm here to tell you I don't expect anything from you anymore. You made your choice years ago, but the girls deserve to know that I did everything I could to give them the best. And now, I'm moving on." Ryan sat in silence, staring at the empty glass in front of him. "I know I failed, Sophia, but I don't know how to be a father. I never did. That doesn't matter anymore. They have someone who loves them as if they were his own. Ethan is everything you never were and never will be." Ryan didn't reply, but the look in his eyes showed he understood the weight of her words. Sophia stood up, feeling she had finally said everything she needed to. As she left the bar, she felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. When she got home, she found Ethan in the yard with the twins, helping them set up a play tent. "How did it go?" he asked as she approached. "It went the way it needed to. Now I'm truly ready to move on." Ethan smiled and pulled her into a hug. "I'm proud of you." In the days that followed, Sophia focused entirely on wedding preparations and her new life with Ethan and the girls. She finally felt she had found a home, not just in a physical sense, but in the love she shared with Ethan and the laughter of Lily and Rose. On the morning of the wedding, Sophia was nervous but radiant. Wearing an elegant white dress, she looked at herself in the mirror, thinking about how much her life had changed. The twins, dressed like little princesses, burst into the room, holding flower bouquets. "You look beautiful, Mommy," Lily said, her eyes shining. "Thank you, my darlings. You both look stunning too." With her heart full of emotion, Sophia walked down the aisle where Ethan was waiting. Their eyes met, and in that moment, all her doubts vanished. The wedding was simple, but filled with love and meaning. Every word in their vows reaffirmed the bond they had built, not just as a couple, but as a united family. When the ceremony ended, Lily and Rose ran into Sophia and Ethan's arms, squealing with joy. The future that once seemed uncertain was now a promise of happiness and togetherness. After the wedding, Ethan's mansion felt even more alive. Lily and Rose quickly adapted to the idea of having a complete family, and Sophia felt she had finally found her place in the world. Their days were filled with laughter and tender moments as she and Ethan built their new routine together. On her first morning as a married couple, Sophia woke to the sound of birds outside the garden. She turned to find Ethan beside her, watching her with a peaceful smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Bennet." She smiled, still adjusting to her new last name. "Good morning." "Ready to start our new life?" "More than ready." The first months of their marriage were filled with gratitude and renewal. Ethan supported Sophia in balancing her work and studies, while continuing to be a dedicated father figure to Lily and Rose. He made it a point to be present for every important moment in the girls' lives, from small school achievements to bedtime stories. One afternoon, while organizing some paperwork in the office, Sophia began feeling lightheaded. Assuming it was just fatigue, she decided to rest. However, the symptoms persisted over the following days. Ethan noticed her exhaustion and insisted she see a doctor. "It's just exhaustion, Ethan. I'm fine," she said, trying to reassure him. "It might be, but it won't hurt to check. I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself." Reluctantly, Sophia agreed and scheduled an appointment. She felt a bit anxious, but didn't expect any major news. However, after the routine exams, the doctor delivered news that would once again change their lives. "Congratulations, Mrs. Bennet. You're pregnant." Sophia sat in silence for a moment, processing what she had just heard. Pregnant. The thought of having a child with Ethan filled her with both joy and surprise. When she returned home, she found Ethan in the living room, playing with Lily and Rose. His smile reassured her that this was the perfect moment to share the news. "Ethan, can we talk for a moment?" He noticed the seriousness in her tone and asked the girls to go play in their room. Once they were alone, Ethan stepped closer, curious. "What is it, Sophia?" She took a deep breath, trying to hold back her emotions. "Ethan, I went to the doctor today, and I found out I'm pregnant." For a moment, Ethan was silent, processing her words. Then, a huge smile lit up his face. "You're pregnant." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, we're going to have a baby." Ethan pulled her into a tight embrace, his heart overflowing with joy. "This is amazing, Sophia. I don't even know what to say." The following weeks were filled with excitement as they began preparing for the new addition to their family. Lily and Rose were thrilled at the news that they would have a baby brother or sister and eagerly helped Sophia pick out clothes and decorate the nursery. One quiet evening, as they watched the twins sleeping, Ethan and Sophia reflected on everything they had overcome to reach this moment. "It feels like we've been through so much in such a short time," Sophia said, gently caressing her growing belly. "And every challenge brought us to this. I'm happier than I ever thought I could be." Sophia smiled, grateful to have Ethan by her side. Despite all the hardships they had faced, they knew they were now building a life filled with love and hope. The pregnancy brought the family even closer together. Ethan was attentive, always ensuring Sophia was comfortable, while Lily and Rose could hardly wait for their little brother to arrive. Every detail of the planning was filled with care and joy. However, like any journey, there were moments of concern. During a routine checkup, the doctor advised Sophia to get additional rest due to a slight risk of complications. When Ethan heard this, he became even more attentive, taking on many daily tasks to ensure Sophia could relax. "I don't want you to worry about anything except taking care of yourself and the baby," he said firmly, but gently. Sophia chuckled softly. "You're spoiling me too much, Ethan." "You deserve all the care in the world, Sophia." The months flew by, and before they knew it, the due date was near. On a calm evening, as a gentle breeze swayed the curtains, Sophia went into labor. Ethan remained calm, though his emotions were evident, and quickly took her to the hospital. Hours later, the sound of a baby's cry filled the delivery room, bringing indescribable joy to everyone's hearts. It was a boy, healthy and strong. Ethan held the baby in his arms, overwhelmed with emotion, while Sophia looked at them both with tears of happiness. "Welcome to the family, my son," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. Lily and Rose, who had been waiting eagerly in the hallway, were brought in to meet their brother. They were delighted, promising to always care for and protect him. Life at Ethan's mansion felt complete. What once seemed like an unlikely family was now a shining example of love, unity, and resilience. Each challenge had made them stronger, and the future seemed brighter than ever. As Ethan cradled the baby in his arms and the twins played nearby, Sophia felt she had finally found what she had always longed for: a home filled with love and people who would do anything for one another. The story of Ethan Bennett and Sophia Carter is more than just a heartwarming tale. It's a powerful reminder of resilience, redemption, and the transformative power of compassion. As an American reader, I find myself deeply moved by how Ethan, a wealthy but once emotionally distant man, steps into Sophia's broken world and chooses to lift her up rather than walk away. Sophia, a woman battered by life's hardships, embodies the grit and determination that so many of us admire in the American spirit. The ability to keep going even when the odds are stacked against you. Their journey together offers lessons that hit home, reflecting values like second chances, community support, and the belief that no one is beyond hope if given the right opportunity. What strikes me first is Ethan's choice to see beyond Sophia's current circumstances. In a culture that often celebrates self-made success and individual achievement, it's easy to judge someone like Sophia, homeless, struggling, and seemingly defeated, without knowing her story. But Ethan doesn't. He recognizes her not as a failure, but as the girl he once knew, someone with potential buried beneath years of pain. This teaches us a critical lesson. Empathy can change lives. In our own lives, we encounter people every day, coworkers, neighbors, even strangers on the street, who might be fighting battles we can't see. Instead of passing judgment, we can choose to offer a hand, a kind word, or even just a moment of understanding. Ethan's decision to act reminds me that small gestures of kindness can ripple outward, creating a chain reaction of hope and healing. Sophia's journey, on the other hand, is a testament to the power of perseverance. As a single mom, raising Lily and Rose on the streets, she could have given up 1,000 times over. Yet, she didn't. Her love for her daughters kept her going, even when she had nothing left to give. This resonates with the American ideal of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But with a twist, Sophia doesn't do it alone. She accepts Ethan's help, swallowing her pride for the sake of her kids. That's a lesson I take to heart. There's strength in admitting when you need support. In our fast-paced, independent culture, we sometimes feel ashamed to ask for help, thinking it's a sign of weakness. But Sophia shows us that accepting help isn't failure. It's a step toward rebuilding. Whether it's leaning on family, friends, or even a community program, recognizing when we can't go it alone is a mark of courage, not defeat. Their evolving relationship also highlights the beauty of second chances, a theme that feels deeply American. Ethan and Sophia both carry baggage from their past, her mistakes with Ryan, his unrequited feelings from youth. But they don't let it define their future. Ethan forgives Sophia for how she treated him in school, and Sophia learns to forgive herself for where life has taken her. This speaks to me on a personal level. How often do we hold grudges or dwell on past regrets, letting them weigh us down? Their story encourages us to let go, to give others, and ourselves, a fresh start. In my own life, I can apply this by mending old friendships, releasing guilt over past failures, or even offering grace to someone who's wronged me. It's about believing that people can change, and that tomorrow doesn't have to look like yesterday. Another takeaway is the importance of investing in others' potential. Ethan doesn't just give Sophia a handout. He gives her tools, education, a job, a chance to grow. This mirrors the American dream. Opportunity, not charity, is what lifts people up. In our communities, we can live this out by mentoring someone, sharing resources, or supporting local initiatives that empower others. I think of volunteering at a job training program, or simply encouraging a friend to chase their goals. Ethan's belief in Sophia's abilities reminds us that when we invest in people, we're not just helping them. We're building a stronger, more connected society. Finally, the story's conclusion, with Ethan and Sophia's marriage and the birth of their son, shows that love and family can emerge from the ashes of hardship. It's a classic American narrative, triumph over adversity. For me, it's a call to nurture the relationships that matter most. Life gets busy with work, bills, and daily stress, but Ethan and Sophia prioritize each other and the kids, creating a home filled with love. I can apply this by making time for my loved ones, being present, and building a support system that stands the test of time. Their family proves that no matter where you start, you can end up somewhere beautiful if you're willing to work for it. In reflecting on Ethan and Sophia, I see a roadmap for living with purpose. Be empathetic, like Ethan, and resilient, like Sophia. Embrace second chances, invest in others, and cherish the people who make life worth living. These aren't just feel-good ideas. They're practical steps we can take every day. Next time I meet someone struggling, I'll think of Ethan and offer help instead of turning away. When I feel stuck, I'll channel Sophia's strength and seek support. This story isn't just about them. It's about us and how we can make our own lives and our communities better. So, what did you think of Ethan and Sophia's incredible journey? It's a story that reminds us all about the power of kindness, resilience, and second chances. If this tale warmed your heart or inspired you, hit that like button right now. It really helps us keep bringing you stories like this. Share this video with your friends and family to spread the love. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below. Tell us your favorite moment or what lesson you're taking away, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.